In the quiet stillness of early spring, the small community of Lakewood, Ontario stirred with whispers of a girl named Kayia Wendigo. To her friends, she was warm, funny, and full of life. To her family, she was the beating heart of their home. But to the endless woods surrounding the town, she would soon become a mystery that refused to fade. Wind blows faintly in the background. It was a Sunday evening when Kayia was last seen, walking home after visiting a friend just a few blocks away. The air was cool, the streets nearly empty, and the last rays of sunlight disappeared beyond the tree line. She sent one final text message, and then, silence. Days passed. Police searches began, and the community gathered, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like fragile hope. Volunteers combed the thick forest, calling her name into the cold night air. But the woods gave nothing back. What troubled investigators most wasn't just her disappearance, it was what they found deep in the forest: her jacket, neatly folded near a tree, and beside it, strange markings carved into the bark. Rumors began to spread. Some said it looked like an old tribal symbol, others swore it resembled the claws of something wild. But the elders in the area spoke in hushed tones, of an ancient spirit that prowls the woods when called by sorrow or fear. They called it the Wendigo. Music grows heavier, low percussion, heartbeat-like rhythm. To the Algonquin people, the Wendigo is not just a story. It's a warning. A creature born of hunger, greed, and endless cold, a monster that feeds not on flesh alone, but on the human soul. And as the investigation unfolded, locals couldn't ignore the coincidence. Her name, Wendigo, carried the same sound as the legend itself. Was it just a name? Or something much darker reaching out from the frozen woods? Music fades to silence. Narrator. What began as a search for a missing girl, was about to become a journey into the unknown. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 2 next, keeping the same mysterious, cinematic tone, or adjust the style, for example, make it more emotional or more investigative? As the search for Kayia Wendigo stretched into its second week, hope began to fade. The small town of Lakewood was no stranger to hardship, but this was different. The disappearance had carved fear into the community, a fear that grew heavier with every passing sunrise. The local police followed every lead. They drained parts of the lake, searched abandoned cabins, even brought in tracking dogs. But every trail went cold, always ending at the same line of trees where Kayia was last seen. Pause, wind rustles through leaves. One officer would later say, it was like she walked into the woods and vanished into thin air. Rumors turned to theories. Some believed she ran away. Others whispered of something stalking the forest, something ancient, unseen. A few locals began to recall strange things happening before she vanished. Animals found torn apart with no tracks nearby. Echoes of crying heard at night. The unsettling feeling that the woods themselves were watching. Low hum builds, unsettling drone music. Then, a discovery changed everything. A hiker, unaware of the ongoing search, stumbled upon what appeared to be a makeshift campsite deep within the forest. Police rushed to the scene, and there they found more than they expected. Inside a small circle of stones lay burnt offerings, bones of small animals, fragments of fabric, and a locket containing Kayya's photo. No fingerprints. No signs of struggle. Just a single word etched into a flat piece of bark. Hunger. The investigators dismissed the markings as the work of a disturbed individual, but locals weren't so sure. Elder Martha Wabano, one of the last storytellers of the region's native community, came forward with a chilling warning. The Wendigo does not need to be seen to be near. When the woods grow silent, it's already listening. Music swells, echoing female vocal tone, haunting and distant. From that moment, the story of Kayia Wendigo stopped being just another missing person case. It became a legend, a living nightmare that blurred the line between myth and reality. And for those who dared to keep searching, the forest would soon reveal something even more disturbing. Music fades into silence. Narrator. Because in Lakewood, the deeper they searched for Kayia, the closer they came to finding something else entirely. By the third week, the official search for Kayia Wendigo had scaled down. Police resources were thin, and the forest had yielded no clues beyond the strange campsite and the word carved into bark, hunger. But not everyone was ready to give up. Two local volunteers, Eli Thompson and Renee Walsh, continued to search the woods every evening after work. They weren't professionals, just two people who couldn't sleep knowing Kayia was still missing. On a cold Wednesday night, they decided to follow an old logging trail that hadn't been used in decades. The trees grew so close together it felt like the forest was swallowing them whole. Sound, crunching leaves, faint whispering wind. Eli later recalled that the deeper they went, the quieter everything became. No birds. No insects. Not even the sound of their own footsteps seemed to echo right. And then, they found it. At the base of a massive pine tree was a small opening, hidden by tangled roots and moss. Inside, the faint glimmer of something metallic caught their flashlights. They crouched down, and what they saw still haunts them to this day. A ring. A silver ring with a small turquoise stone, identical to the one Kayia wore the day she vanished. But there was more. All around the entrance to that hollow tree, carved into the bark in deep, ragged slashes, were dozens of symbols, the same ones found near her folded jacket. Renee noticed one thing that made her stomach drop. Each symbol seemed to form a trail, leading deeper into the forest, almost like a path. Soft, distant whisper, Kayia. The sound came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Eli swore he heard someone calling her name, faint, broken, as if carried by the wind. They ran back to town that night, terrified. But when authorities returned the next morning, the symbols were gone. The tree, the ring, everything had vanished. Music swells, heavy low tones with distant cries. That's when the stories began spreading faster than ever. Some said Kayia had become part of the forest, that the Wendigo had taken her spirit, binding it to the woods forever. Others believed someone, or something, was using the legend to hide something far worse. Whatever the truth was, one thing was clear. Kayya's disappearance had awakened something that would not rest. Weeks turned into months. Snow began to fall over Lakewood, covering the forest in a white silence that felt almost sacred. But beneath that silence, something still stirred. People spoke less about Kayia Wendigo, not because they forgot her, but because speaking her name seemed to invite something. The search had stopped, but the nightmares had not. One family on the edge of town reported strange claw marks on their windows. Another claimed to hear a girl's voice whispering outside their cabin at night. The words were always the same. "I'm cold, please, let me in." When they opened the door, there was no one there. Only footprints in the snow, leading toward the woods, not away from it. Sound, faint echo of footsteps crunching in snow, fading into the distance. Then, in January, a hunter discovered something that brought the investigation roaring back to life. Deep in the northern woods, frozen solid in the ice of a shallow creek, was what appeared to be a human shape, curled, almost fetal, beneath the surface. At first, police believed they had finally found Kayia. But when the body was thawed and examined, it wasn't her. The remains were far too old, decades older, and partially fused to the roots of a pine tree. The local medical examiner wrote only one note in his report. No animal should move like that. No human could survive looking like that. Music deepens, low bass rumble, whispering voices blend in. That discovery brought back old memories, stories buried under time and disbelief. One of the town's oldest archives revealed reports from 1952, a missing trapper named Thomas Wendigo. The same last name. The same woods. The same story. It was as if the forest had been feeding, generation after generation. Locals began to whisper that Kayya's spirit wasn't gone, it had been claimed. Some said that on the coldest nights, when the moonlight turns the snow blue, you can still see her standing among the trees, her eyes hollow, her voice trembling with hunger. When tragedy strikes once, people call it misfortune. When it strikes again, in almost the same way, people start to wonder if something darker is at work. Months after the disappearance of Kayia Wendigo, another name began to echo through headlines and hearts. Keely Bunker. She wasn't from Lakewood. She lived miles away, in the small, close-knit town of Tamworth, where everyone knew everyone. Kayia was 20 years old, bright, caring, and always smiling. Her friends described her as the one who never let anyone walk home alone. But on the night of September 18th, it was Kayia who needed a safe way home. Music fades lower, replaced by faint rhythmic footsteps on pavement. She had gone out to celebrate her best friend's birthday, a night of laughter, music, and promises that they'd both head home together. CCTV footage later showed Kayia leaving a nightclub around 2:45 a.m., walking beside someone she trusted, her best friend's brother, Wesley. He told everyone he would walk her home. But Kayia never made it. When she didn't answer her phone that morning, panic set in. Her friends and family flooded the streets, retracing every step she might have taken. Posters went up. Calls were made. Hope began to fade with each passing hour. Then, the next day, a discovery, one that shattered the quiet town forever. Music deepens, slow, heavy tone. Her body was found in a small, wooded area near a stream, hidden beneath branches and leaves. The very place she used to walk her dog as a child. At first, the police believed it was a tragic accident. But within hours, inconsistencies began to surface. The friend who promised to walk her home, Wesley, had scratches on his hands, dirt under his nails, and no clear explanation for where he'd been. He changed his story 3 times. And by the time investigators pieced the timeline together, they realized Kayia had never made it past the first street corner. Brief pause, low rumble of music builds tension. Her final moments were not of an accident, but of betrayal. He had led her there, the same person she had trusted to protect her. The news hit the town like a storm. Vigils were held. Tears turned to outrage. And in the weeks that followed, the image of Kayia Bunker became a haunting reminder that monsters don't always hide in forests. Sometimes, they walk right beside you.